The COYGIG Pod on OTB Sports, in association with Cadbury. A player and a half deserves a glass and a half of support.
Top pocket goal!
It's what dreams are made of.
They are going to the World Cup Finals!
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the COYGIG podcast. I am Kathleen McNamee, and after a brief break last week where we decided that we'd hold off on giving you your regular Tuesday content to build up all the excitement for this week, I am back with former Ireland internationals Emma Byrne and of course Captain Karen Duggan, who has found herself on the score sheet this weekend, and not in Emma's, Carroll's one, which will be coming later, in the League of Ireland Women's Team of the Week as well.
Yeah. Not going to say much about those Team of the Week selections. I'm not going to take too much from that. They can be who scored this week. Okay, we'll put them in. But yeah, it was good to get a win. Daily Mount, nice big pitch. Lots of weird kind of ups and down hills on it. But yeah, on we go.
I do think you did say on the podcast a couple of weeks back, and I meant to go back and try and find it, but today got away with me a bit more, that the only time we would see you score this season would be a penalty, and that it would be a long time coming. And here we are, like a week or two later.
Yeah, well, like I also probably said I should have been on penalties years ago and no one believed me, but like, come on. No, I was absolutely bricking it, to be honest. I think it was okay if you've scored before that, but when it's kind of like 0-0, and I haven't taken that many, I was a bit nervous. But
what's your tactic in that moment? Like, what goes through your head? Are you the sort of person who has a process, or are you very much just like, I'm just going to point and shoot and hope it goes in?
More so just try and calm myself by saying it's a 12-yard pass. And if I'm misplacing a 12-yard pass, then I shouldn't be playing at that level. So just go and do it.
Do you try and smash it or place it?
Place.
Interesting. Did the keeper get near it?
I think she guessed the right way, but I think she dived after it hit it. I think you have to guess. Would you say you have to guess in order to save a penalty?
Well, no, not really. No? If you're a good keeper, you should be able to reach the corners in a reaction. Well, not the corners, but you should be able to reach like
it was pinpoint. Come on, give
a
me some
good
credit.
foot. Like you should be able to reach like foot distance from the post. So either you're getting beaten by an excellent penalty, or you are reacting to it. If you know what I mean, you're reacting late.
Yeah. She had a great game. I think that's why I was a bit nervous. We probably should have been 2 or 3 up in the first half, but I'll have to ask her if she reacted. I was just like, please go in, please go in, please go in. I'll send you on a video, Emma, and you can tell me what you think of it later.
Yeah, send it to me.
Give me some tips.
Whether it was a good penalty or a bad goalkeeping, I'll let you know.
I'm sure you'll be really honest anyway.
I feel like we've missed a trick now, not by doing like a live replay where I can like commentate through it as it is happening and just Karen in the top corner just squirming, listening to it all.
Yeah, I sent it on there.
Emma, was there ever anyone that you particularly didn't like when you were coming up against them on penalty? Is there any teams that had, you know, I see different teams who have either the goalkeeper themselves or the people who are taking the shots have certain tactics to kind of put each other off?
I didn't like being in goal when Farrell Williams was taking a penalty, because she's just quality. She just puts it in the corner and high. She knew my weak points. But I quite liked penalties when I was playing. I enjoyed them.
The pressure is on the taker, not on the keeper.
Yeah. And then I mean, I didn't find them easy, but it was easy to try and trick players into like just a little drop of the shoulder just as they're going to take it. Like there's been a few players that have come up to me and said, I was going in a direction, then I seen you just drop your shoulder, and I was like, yeah, but I was never going that way. I was always going to go the opposite way. So when people started copping on to what I was doing, it became very difficult for me. So I saved most of my penalties in the earlier years of my career, that's for sure. But I really enjoyed it. I liked it. And especially if you're confident with them. I think it's weird. It's a mental thing. If you're confident as a keeper in penalties, you're like, you kind of like nearly like mentally mess them up into taking a bad penalty.
What is it that you liked about it? Like, was it the fact of what Karen was saying, that the pressure is probably more on the taker than the goalkeeper, or that fact that you kind of know yourself, if you do that little drop of the shoulder, that you might be able to trick someone into changing their mind about what way they're putting the penalty? Or is it just the sheer drama of it all?
Oh, it's very dramatic, yeah. But it's difficult for the penalty taker, because if you think of everything that goes into it, so if you're right-footed as a penalty taker, it's easier for you to get power hitting across your body. So that's the easiest penalty. So if the penalty taker opens up their body, they're not going to get as much pace on it. So you've got like already as a keeper, they have to be extremely good at placing if they're going to go across their body. So you can try and convince them to smash it because it's their easier penalty. Or left footers were very difficult for me. They just seem to be technically better than right footers and able to like whip the ball by opening up their body. So there's a lot of mind games that goes into it as well. Yeah, if you've saved a penalty before from them, things like that. Like especially internationally, if you're playing against one of your teammates. Yeah. And they can make a penalty because they're practicing, aren't they, week in, week out against you. So you know them, they know you, and there's more pressure on them.
Do keepers have a dominant side as well that they prefer diving to? Like if you're right-handed, are you better at diving to your right generally, or does it your feet?
I mean, no, it didn't really matter. But yeah, there are keepers that prefer, if they're right-handed, going to their right. I was actually better on my left because I had to work on that more technically than my right. So actually, technically, I was better on my left. But no, like I remember we played against Scotland and Kim Little was taking a penalty, and I knew her so well. She wouldn't even look at me before she took it, and I saved it. I mean, they beat us anyway, so it didn't really matter. But that was my little win.
And not too many people saved them from her, so I'd be fairly proud of that one.
Nah, it was a poor penalty, I had to say. I'd mentally won that battle before she even took it.
Sounds like a very classic Emma Byrne response to this as well, which I can totally see with your personality why you'd be the sort of person who would enjoy a penalty shootout. I think it makes a lot of sense in my mind. Take from that what you will.
It's the only time we get recognition anyway, isn't it, as goalkeepers? So gotta take it when it comes.
This is true. And in our break, we had some very exciting Champions League results. Arsenal obviously lost 1-0. Barcelona, I mean, I think a lot of people thought they were going to put a lot more past Roma, but they put in a great performance, also a 1-0 result. You also had Chelsea beating Lyon 1-0, and possibly get into that a little bit more when we look at their game against City at the weekend and the kind of hangover from it. But Emma, did you make it to any of the games?
Yeah, I was doing the Roma Barca game, and I'm doing their game on Wednesday as well. And then I was watching the other games. Yeah, I love Champions League, especially at this level, at this point in the competition, the quarterfinals. You've got Roma in there, who is a bit of a shock, to be honest, that they got there. It's their first time in the Champions League, but I've seen them play a lot because Vicky's there, so they've quite impressed me, to be honest. They just work really hard. I did think it was going to be about 4 or 5 though, being honest. I was texting some of the Barca players. I was like, just go easy, will you? It's like, they're new, they're babies. Like, let them enjoy it. But they just defended for their lives, didn't they? And Barca weren't really that clinical either. So, and then Arsenal, I thought they were a bit unlucky against Bayern Munich. I'm really interested to see how they do at home, because they can either turn the screw and again, Arsenal could come out on top 3, maybe even 4-0, or they can go the way they've gone the last couple of years and absolutely cack themselves and just not come out of the changing room. So that'll be interesting. And then of course with Chelsea, well, after the game, was it yesterday? Yeah. Was it the end of the weekend? That's going to be difficult for them.
Yeah, I think injuries will definitely be a big thing for Chelsea over the coming days, depending on who manages to get back on time and how much as well the psychological toll can be handled by Emma Hayes. Although if there is a manager that's good at handling that sort of thing, she probably is the right person to be in there. Coming up next, we have Emma Carroll with her team of the week. And then a little bit after that, we will have full analysis of the weekend's games, which, I mean, that title race is heating up very nicely and I'm enjoying it. And we'll probably have a little bit more of an assessment on those Champions League games as well for the teams where they apply. The COYGIG podcast on OTB Sports is brought to you by Cadbury FC, official snack partner to the Republic of Ireland women's national team. Now we are joined by Emma Carroll, who has brought us one of her classic team of the weeks in a weekend that had plenty of competition, plenty of interesting battles on the pitch and interesting words from managers off the pitch as well. So Emma, do you want to run us through who you have picked? We can dive straight into picking it apart.
Yeah, big weekend of football. Brosnan in goal, Greenwood, Williamson and Letizia at the back, and then if 5-ish in the middle, Hemp, Manham, Hasegawa, Lehman and Pelova, then Ford and Daly up front. And it's more than goals to get into these teams, Karen.
I know. There's also a lot more work put into the analysis, to be honest. I love it, a little 3-5-2. Love to see it. There was few good goals at the weekend, so I think it's fair that you've put in a little bit more in the attack than in the defence. But my favourite player at the moment is Hasegawa. I love to see her in there. Daly, she's still putting goals away. Probably the first time in a while that Bunny Shaw isn't in it, but that's just because the likes of Hemp actually stepped up for City this week. So not too many complaints on my side. And obviously great to see Courtney Brosnan in there. Kind of when we look at keepers, we're looking, did they make a difference in terms of the result? And that point blank kind of tip away that Brosnan did really, that got Everton the point in the end.
And did she win the foul? Was it a little bit soft?
Well, she claimed it loud enough that it was listened to, so we'll give her credit for that. I think it was harsh on the attacking player. Emma, I don't know if you're goalkeeping.
I'd hear goalkeeping.
I was going to say, for anyone who's listening on podcasts, there's a very imperceptible shaking of Emma's head right now.
Well, no, she definitely deserves to be in there. I thought she was absolutely brilliant. She really made a difference for them, and she's getting great credit as well, so that's fantastic. For us, it wasn't a foul, absolutely not. She was getting a little bit pinned in, but I mean, I think if it was a different referee, she wouldn't have got it, personally. She's getting pinned in, but she could get around her. Like, she wasn't completely, like, stopped moving. She hadn't been stopped moving. So for me, it wasn't a foul. But, you know, I'm glad to see the goalkeeper is getting the benefit of the doubt.
You always get the benefit of the doubt.
That's not true. That is not true.
Like, the benefit of the doubt.
I feel like the referees get together and have a meeting, right? I honestly think this happens. And in those meetings, they either have, okay, I want you to be quite lenient in the next couple of weeks. I want you to be strict. I want you to give the goalkeepers the benefit of the doubt. I want you to punish, blah, 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 because it just seems to be a little trend that goes on. But no, it wasn't a foul. So I think Leanne Rowe can be very, very disappointed in that. But it doesn't matter because Brosnan was class. She deserves to be in there. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
I think her reaction won the decision, really, more than anything, which...
Yeah, maybe.
If it was Ireland, I wouldn't be questioned. I'd be like, well done. Brilliant. Taking the red tinted glasses off and putting the grey ones on.
See that again.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It could, I mean, she was impeded a little bit. So there's no, poor Liverpool, poor Beardy had a lot to say about it. He didn't even want to watch it again, did he? But yeah, I thought she was brilliant. And yeah, I like your team. I do like your team. I thought we could pick two teams of the week this week, because I thought there's been brilliant performances. Hasegawa is just class, although I did like to see her being put under pressure as well a little bit, because that is something that she struggles with, the physicality of the game, but she's class.
Yeah. I think in the first 10 minutes or so, Erin Cuthbert kind of just won a little battle with her, and I was like, oh, is this going to set the tone for the game? But then it didn't.
Well, there's only one Erin Cuthbert, unfortunately, and she can't be everywhere. But yeah, actually, she might have got in there as well, team of the week. I really liked, is it Nicolene Sorensen for Everton?
Yeah,
the winger. I thought she was
game.
really good instead of Pelova.
And Megan Campbell got taken off as well, so that kind of showed how she was performing as well, up against her on that side.
Yeah, and I thought the Spanish were brilliant as well. I thought Ona Baje, Lai Alexandri, Lucia Garcia coming off the bench for United. I thought they were brilliant as well. But as I said, could have had 2 team of the weeks.
Yeah, Lucia Garcia was one of the players that I possibly would have put in. The other one I thought there was a shout in was Kim Little. Goal and assist, dictated everything as she normally does. I thought she was pulling the strings really well in that game. Which again, it's a bit like, I feel we say that about Kim Little a lot. It's like, oh, she was amazing, but it's just what you expect from her. So I think not necessarily disagree with anyone that's in there, but a bit like Emma Byrne was saying, you probably could have you could have had a very stocked bench at the very least, Emma.
Very stocked, yeah. Megan Connolly had a decent enough game for Brighton as well. They're struggling, and she got an assist, so always worth mentioning our Irish girls. Worrying that the form that Caitlin Ford is in, though, because oh my god,
I was just about to say that.
She's just so good every week at the moment. She's like really stepping up with Arsenal missing those players. That she's just really stepping up. Brilliant performance again.
But she also does do this sometimes where she like goes through patches of like quite good form, and the consistency isn't always there, and the consistency hasn't been there for her with the national team. So
you're right, Kathleen, she's peaked too soon. We're fine.
So hopefully this is her patch, and then it's going to trail off.
Yeah. Sam Kerr is drifting off as well. It's all fine. No, but I just, as much as I want her to hit a run of form with Arsenal, I also don't want her to take that confidence into the World Cup. It's a very conflicting time for me.
Taking down a peg or two.
Yeah. I'm sure Katie can give her a few digs in training and hopefully just set her up well for the World Cup. Emma, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Emil.
Now into the nitty gritty of the fixtures that did actually happen over the weekend. I'm going to start with one of the more recent ones as well, just because it was so pivotal to the title race, and I feel like we will spend ages talking on it, so I might as well do it now while we have the time. Man City 2, Chelsea 0. Thoughts, feelings, comments after that game?
As a United fan, I'm gutted, but it's good to see Chelsea lose a game that they deserve to lose, I would say, because there's been teams that have played well against them, like United, who didn't come off on the right side of the result, but I thought that City deserved it. I mean, I think they were similar enough in terms of stats possession wise, but City were peppering their goal a lot more, had a lot more shots, and they had their press up really high, which I love. And they put Berger under a lot of pressure, and she is very liable for a mistake at the moment, and it led to their first goal. But it was credit to the press and for City to have the confidence to go at Chelsea using that tactic. So I think Gareth Taylor got everything right.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I was expecting these kind of performances from City at the start of the season, and when we weren't seeing them, it was just like, oh, they're just they lack so much. They lack things in midfield, they lack this, and I'm not sure what Taylor's doing here and there. This is the first game I would say all of his tactics came off. Like, for example, Laia Alexandri is not a left back, she's right-footed. It's between her and Leilu Habi. Who do you play? But what Laia does, she comes in, both the fullbacks come into midfield to create an overload in midfield, which hasn't worked for them that well, I don't think, this season. But the weekend, I think it worked really well. And I think Alexandri, as a holding midfielder, she can play there though, does really well in there. And Chelsea just did not know what to do with it. They just couldn't play out. I mean, they're not great at that anyway. But they couldn't play out, they couldn't build up, they couldn't play through the midfield because of City and how they're pressing and how they're overloading in that midfield. And I just think City look like a team that should be at the top of the league. They should be in the Champions League. They are one of the best footballing teams in the league. And I'm really glad to see them play at that level, because they should be playing at that level. They should be playing months ago, but they've just taken a while to get there. And, you know, Hempo's she's stepped up. Hasegao's class, we've already spoken about her. And Angeldal, who has been there. It's not as if she's a new player. She's been sitting on that bench.
We
for
haven't
the
mentioned her
season and a half.
once, I'd say, yet this season, have we? I don't remember mentioning her at all.
There's, you know,
it's only started 6 games this season.
Yeah.
You can have a good player and you could have them on the bench, but you can bring them on and, you know, give them minutes here and there. She was getting nothing. She was literally sitting on the bench 4 games consecutively, sitting on the bench. I mean, that mentally alone is very difficult. And then when she gets her chance, I think she's a really good player. I mean, she's quality for Sweden, so she should never have been sitting on the bench. So she's settling in there very nicely, and they just look like they're coming together. And then you can talk about Chelsea, because what Karen said was right. We've spoken about Chelsea before.
A little bit.
They can win dirty. They play that long ball, and they just know how to win and get results. But that only lasts a certain amount of time. You have to be able to exploit weaknesses in the opposition, and they couldn't, because they're not a passing team. They weren't able to pass through midfield. They weren't able to find the feet of Lauren James or get good balls in to Kerr, because they were being closed down. So they need to have 2 or 3 more passes, and they just couldn't find them. So yeah, I think it's kind of a coming together of everything. Man City reaching their level and Chelsea just running out of options.
Does it show how much of an influence Bright has on that style of play, that she just does that ping ball over the top so often that we kind of take for granted? Or was it just that Chelsea were not able to execute it, or didn't?
I think
they didn't try to execute it as much.
I think they're exhausted. I think it's a really crappy fixture to have in the middle of a Champions League 2-leg quarterfinal. But I just think it's a mixture of City pressing really, really well and being really energetic and just looking like they have way more energy. And then Chelsea being at their worst, as in they don't pass it well through midfield. So they couldn't find the feet of their big players. And then because of the press, they weren't able to play that ball in behind for Sam Kerr. But I mean, the second half was better from them. It definitely was. But I just thought City were way better in the first half.
What did you think of the double substitution on 36 minutes? Ingle and Lauren James coming off, and Canyard and Charles coming on. It's a brave decision early on in the game, especially with a player like James.
I was just laughing a lot. I just found it really funny, because it's just typical Emma Hayes. Like, Emma Hayes it doesn't matter. If she wants to make that decision, she wants to make those substitutions, she's going to make them, and it really doesn't matter who it is. And I think personally, I mean, I wouldn't have taken Lauren James off personally, because she's quality and she can just come up with something amazing. But I think it's because she wasn't able to play in that press. Like, she was completely lost. It's not about her not making good decisions on the ball or whatever. It's because she wasn't doing what Emma needed from her to press when they didn't have the ball. So again, it's from Laia Alexandri coming into midfield. Lauren James really didn't know what to do, and she was just getting played around the whole time. And you could see her a lot of the time with her hands up, like as if to say, I don't know who I'm supposed to press, blah, blah, blah. It just wasn't working. And I think that's why she was getting taken off, because when they were out of possession, she just wasn't working with the team. I mean, they did play.
And is that experience from James, or is that Emma Hayes not prepping the team right?
I think James probably needed more information, but the reason why I think Emma would have taken her off is because she'd given that information, and that's why she might have been a little bit right. That's it. She's not doing the job I've asked her to do. But it was difficult for her. I mean, they were overloaded on that side as well. Plus, I thought it was a little bit slow moving in the press. I thought her angles of the press were poor. She wasn't really. She didn't do anything. They were like literally one player less when they were trying to win the ball back. But I mean, I would have kept her, asked her at halftime what was going on with her. If she needed more information, just tried to suss her out a little bit, because she does create, chances. She does score goals. But you have to respect Emma for that. She made a decision and she did it, and that's it.
And her post-match comments were interesting about it as well, because she was specifically asked about James, obviously because of, you know, the general star that she has around her, and she just said, you know, I'm not making this about her. I'm not talking about her specifically. It was a tactical change. I took the two of them off, and I don't regret my decision. So you kind of have to, again, a very classic Emma Hayes answer to something, not making it about one particular player in her system, kind of making it about the entire team.
Yeah, I mean, I think she'd be more concerned about the fact that Chelsea can't play out from the back. They can't build up. You know, they need, I don't know what's going on with Berger's slow in confidence or whatever, but she needs to be able to build up. They've got Champions League quarterfinal, and they just struggled a lot. And yeah, I do think they miss Millie Bright, but not in the build up, but for those long balls again.
I mean, Eriksson is experienced enough to lead that back line.
I just don't think she's been playing well at all this season.
No.
But
I
again,
think, like, you look at the two goals, there just seemed to be panic in the Chelsea defense. Like, there wasn't
Angadal's goal, like, she should never have that much time to have gotten her head up. I was like, she couldn't believe that no one was coming out to her.
I just think if you look at the team, the players themselves, the Chelsea girls, you say about panic, they looked panicked from the start. They looked really worried, and they looked tired, and they just did not look happy. Like, for me, it was a little bit uncomfortable actually looking at them. I was like, what's wrong with these lot? But it has been a very, very long season and a very tough game midweek, and they've got another really tough game. It must be very difficult for them. Like, you know, they don't have a massive squad. They don't have amazing players that they can bring off the bench, not like, you know, City, for example. And I think that's what showed. I think just pure exhaustion. Like, they need a little bit of a rest. They need to get through this game this week, and then try to get themselves together. I mean, they do have a better run in than City and than Arsenal in the league, so maybe that will help them a little.
If they win their game in hand, they're still 2 points clear, isn't it? So.
Yeah, so United are on 38 points, so are City. Chelsea are on 37, but they have a game in hand, and Arsenal are on 35. Yeah, 35. So there's like 3 points between the top four at the moment as it stands. Speaking of, it's kind of interesting timing for City in the sense that they get to face Chelsea after they've played Lyon, and then they get to face Arsenal after a North London derby, and the home leg against Bayern Munich during the week. They probably kind of happy enough with that setup for themselves, just in terms of everything that's going on. Although you can't say Arsenal were particularly stressed this weekend after a 5-1 win over Spurs, with Spurs' only goal coming from Beth England penalty, so it wasn't even from open play. I mean, I don't even know how much more there really is to say about this fixture. It just feels I thought, like, someone definitely should have gone to Blackstenius for her goal, but I just think
when you start off giving quality that much space, like, and the ball wasn't even meant for her, and Spurs just didn't react. It was a really good finish. I think the keeper's positioning was a bit questionable, but instead of having a bounce effect and Spurs stepping up, Forge just was straight in for her first of 2 goals. Then even when you thought England got the penalty, maybe they'd start to push, but then Turner gave away a silly penalty in return. So it's like, you get a penalty here, we'll give you one straight back. So
liability, actually.
Turner.
She makes mistakes a lot. Like, she just makes poor decisions, doesn't she? I think Spurs are just wanting the season to end, aren't they? Like, they just wanted to finish.
Yeah, I mean, they're safe, so
they're the definition of crawling to the finish line at this stage.
Yeah. I mean, Palova was good, so that's something to say about Arsenal, but it was just too easy for them to even go OTT on the praise this week. It was just job done, really, wasn't it?
Which is probably what they needed after what was, like, quite an intriguing matchup against Bayern, and obviously
they definitely didn't face the same kind of physicality in this game at all. No. A lot more space.
Definitely not. And I also don't think they're going to, you know, I had a few people say to me like, oh, it's great to see Blackstenius back scoring and Fjord and stuff. And I was like, yeah, but against that sort of opposition, you know, again, I did think Blackstenius' finish was very nice considering the angle she was at, but also she never should have had that much space in the first place. Like I was saying in the team of the week, Caitlin Fjord is sort of player who does have goals in her, but does tend to have a lot of those come in like not big moment games. So yeah, I don't know. I'll just be interested. I mean, looking at the shots here, Arsenal had 23 shots, 13 on target, and Spurs had 5 and 1 on target. So even that alone kind of shows that they maybe should have even gotten a few more out of that, considering how much they were peppering the goal.
Just pure dominance. Pure dominance. I mean, Tottenham have never really challenged Arsenal, being honest, and now they're even less of a danger. They just don't compete, which is what they did do under Skinner. When Skinner first took the job, she got them to compete and they became a little bit difficult to beat. And now they've lost that edge a little bit, and that's all they had, being honest. They brought in a couple of players to try and play, the likes of James, Turner, Spence, but just then they lost that little bit of that competitive edge, and those players they brought in weren't good enough to compensate for that. So back to the drawing board for them, I think, over the summer.
And to complete our top 4, then we had Man United running away with it against West Ham. Hayley Sealand and Lucia Garcia getting 2, and then Hayley Ladd getting 1 there. Again, it was just a complete performance from them. They didn't look too troubled.
Eventually. Yeah. I think Mark Skinner there said there was a few choice words at halftime. I think they probably could have had a penalty in the first half, but Sissoko made sure to give them one in the second. We talked about Turner being a bit of a liability. I know we love Sissoko on this podcast, but she is liable to do anything.
That's part of the reason why we like her.
Exactly.
I mean, even the tackle was like, oh no. I mean, I just even love the tackle, to be honest. I think if I was in goal and she was given away, I would be a little bit annoyed, but I don't think that annoyed because it's just so bad. Like, what can you do to help this player? Not much, really.
No, you can't. She just has that in her, and I think you just have to accept it.
Yeah.
Good for Garcia though. The tune ball to Garcia for the second goal was really, really good. And again, in front of a huge crowd in Old Trafford, which was great. I think it was nearly 28,000 or something again. So
I forgot to mention that Usain Bolt was at the City game.
He was, yes, supporting.
Was it Kelly or Hemp's jersey afterwards, apparently?
Hemp, I think it was, yeah.
She looked tiny compared to him. Did you see the picture?
Yeah.
She looked like a little kid compared to him. He's huge. But yeah, back to United, I just think they're looking good as well. And I'm so happy because I really thought they were gonna again get to that point where they got to a point last season and then kind of let it go because of their inexperience or whatever, but they're not. They're still up there and making it very interesting end of season.
Yeah, the United Arsenal game in a couple of weeks' time are huge.
Yeah, April is huge.
Yeah.
April's huge. That's the one. I think we'll know really what's happening at the end.
Yeah, they have Villa as well, who are obviously in a bit of form too. So,
do you think that performance goes further for Garcia, kind of like stamping her place in the team?
I think so.
I think it should.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, Paris does a really good job for them, and I know Mark Skinner likes Paris, and it's difficult because it is between her and Garcia. But then when Garcia comes on, she always does something like very positive. So I'm sure she's having a conversation probably today about wanting to start. I mean, she has to go after scoring 2 goals like that. As well, I think her connection with Badger is so good. Like, they play so well together as well.
Yeah, I think that's what she has over Paris. I think Paris obviously has maybe a bit more running than her, but I think Garcia is a cleverer player in terms of her movement. Like the amount of space she found herself in for the second goal, and even just being in back post for her second one. Yeah, I think in a game where
Okay.
United have possession, she's definitely would get the nod for.
Who'd be a manager, because Garcia is actually better coming off. When she comes off the bench, she is an impact player. And when she was
it's the worst thing to be known as.
I know. And then when she was starting, she was okay, but she wasn't like what she's like coming off the bench. So what do you do?
Just bring her on the 60th minute every week.
Tell her, yeah.
Goals and an assist, and away she goes. Maybe if it works.
Well, you take that. Goals and an assist every 30 minutes for the rest of the season.
Yeah. I would say if you're a player and you actually are getting that sort of return, does it kind of in some way, like if you know yourself, you can't do it when you're starting, but you can do it as an impact.
No player thinks that.
Yeah.
They want to start.
And then on Friday we had the Merseyside derby. Everton won, Liverpool won. We already talked a little bit about Courtney Brosnan's performance, which was very good, especially towards the end. Even if the penalty wasn't really a penalty, she probably did play it up a bit, and if she's doing that for us and it goes our way, we won't be complaining anyways. I don't think it might be glossed over ever so slightly. But yeah, I don't know would either side necessarily be all that pleased coming out of it. I think Liverpool maybe a little bit, considering what Everton did to them earlier on in the season.
I think it was so equal. Like I mean, you really couldn't pick them apart. They were the exact. It's like watching the exact same. It was like watching a training game, like your club playing a preseason training game, and they're just the same. They were the same. They both had like good chances. I couldn't really see either team. I saw Everton. I thought Everton might get it towards the end, especially the subs they brought in. Like they were bringing Izzy Christensen on, like quality player, and of course you've got Jess Park there that is so good. So yeah, I think both teams, if they look back at it, they'll be happy enough with the point, because they were very, very equal. Very equal.
Yeah. I feel like if I was to pick one, I feel like Everton might be slightly more disappointed because they had so much more possession, but didn't look like Liverpool got a lot more shots off towards.
I mean, when Shanice van der Sanden came on, that was different. That was a different game altogether.
Yeah, Stengel should have scored from one of her breaks there, all right. But equally at the other end, Park had a header that could have gone in as well. Both managers came across very disappointed in their interviews. The Everton manager more so because he felt like they can play a little better. I think maybe Matt Beard because they had the disallowed goal.
Yeah. I do like as well though, like that there's a bit of grit in that rivalry now as well. Like they've had some decent battles, and that, I don't know, it's kind of, because as Emma was saying, it was so even the other night. You could almost see the frustration in some of the players being like, this is Merseyside derby, it's at Goodison, there's a good decent crowd behind it. It felt a little bit more gritty maybe than some of the other ones.
Yeah, I think maybe because it was at Goodison as well. I think, playing in these stadiums, it kind of brings that hatred of the derbies. And it did feel like that. It felt like a proper Liverpool-Everton game, to be quite honest. But yeah, I mean, that's what you want, isn't it? You want the standard to be higher. You want them, like Everton used to be way better than Liverpool. And then Liverpool became way better than Everton. And I think it's better. Like we want Tottenham to be good. We don't want to be beating Tottenham 6-7-0 in a derby. We want that competitive feel. So it's just great. And a great crowd as well, which was good to see.
And then elsewhere, the other results were Aston Villa 5, Leicester 0, which is unfortunate for Leicester because they had been on kind of a decent enough run with fixtures, but Aston Villa, Rachel Daly in particular, just having too much power for them. And then Reading 2, Brighton 2, which, I mean, if Leicester got some sort of a result, might have kind of kept them afloat a tiny bit in their minds, but it does. They're fairly sunk at the moment.
Yeah, and it was a battering, but I still feel a bit sorry for Leicester because they had as much possession as Villa. They have the capability of doing that, but they obviously conceded 5 goals, so you can't really excuse that, really. If you're trying to stay up, you need to be so mean and solid in defence. But Villa are very good. I mean, Daly, Lehman, all very, very good again. And the Reading Brighton game, if I was the Brighton manager, I'd be fuming. Against Reading is a team that if you're 2-0 up, you need to like keep the foot on the neck and kill that game off, because that's capable. You know, you should be capable of doing that against Reading, the form that they've been in this season. So to let them back in, particularly the first goal, good ball over the top by Mukandi, but their line was terrible. So it was way too easy for them to get, and that gave Reading hope. And again, it was a good cross for the second goal.
Yeah, I have to say, like, credit to Emma Harries coming on as well and getting those 2 goals. I mean, I think her first goal, that was her first touch of the ball, and again, definitely a lot should have been done better by the Brighton defence. But first touch of your ball is never too bad when you're able to score a goal off it.
Not bad coming off the bench and scoring 2 goals.
Yeah.
Not bad at all.
And I thought you were about to regale us with some tale of some time you had done that, where you'd come off the bench and first touch, you were like, yeah.
Karen's not a come off the bench player.
Me? No, I just sit in the stands for 5 years.
We need to go. Let's bring Karen on. Said nobody ever.
Hey, if you win a penalty, maybe. Big man up top. I reckon I could do a job. I actually do. Target man. Hit the bun. See what happens.
Any of the players in the league listening to this, watch out. Big player up top. Karen Duggan is coming.
Here first. Yeah.
Well, thank you both very much for all that excellent analysis. We will be back next week because we have a massive weekend next weekend. Everton, Tottenham will be interesting. Arsenal City in particular will be very interesting. Champions League during the week, so we get to see if Chelsea are able to bounce back away to Villa, and plenty more besides. But for now, we shall leave you with this, and we hope you enjoy the weekend of football.
The COYGIG Pod on OTB Sports, in association with Cadbury. A player and a half deserves a glass and a half of support.